Hello, I'm Laura Pizzorno. I'm the author of Your Bones, and I'm here today to share with you some information from the breaking research that relates to bone health and that I hope will help you to have healthier bones. We've been talking in the last couple of videos about how calcium can help us get and stay in shapely shape, naturally, healthfully, and without feeling hungry. In our last video, we talked about some of the latest research into the mechanisms through which daily consumption of calcium promotes fat loss. The latest studies have been focused on figuring out all the reasons why calcium helps us lose unwanted fat. And various types of unwanted fat are harmful to our bones, so it's important that we get rid of particularly belly fat to maintain our bone mineral density. There are a number of ways in which calcium helps us do this. In addition to, of course, being essential for incorporation into bone. Calcium causes us to excrete more fat in stools. It also promotes the release of insulin, so the calories we consume get delivered to our cells and used to produce energy and not stored away as fat by our adipocytes. Lastly, calcium, if it's accompanied, particularly if it's accompanied by vitamin D and protein, increases satiety. So our hunger is satisfied and we end up eating less during the rest of the day. In this video, I'd like to share with you the results of a few more of these medical journal articles investigating these mechanisms. I found them really inspiring, especially now that spring is almost upon us, and this means that summer and bathing suit season will be here possibly sooner than we might like if we ate one too many treat during the holidays. Fortunately, calcium can help us burn off any extra fat we put on while producing more energy, and it can help us do it without feeling hungry. In 2009, a systematic review and meta-analysis of a number of randomized controlled trials was published. The results of all these studies showed that increasing calcium intake from the 400 to 500 milligrams a day that is typically consumed from the diet to 1,241 milligrams a day resulted in an increase in what's called fecal fat, or the amount of fat excreted in stools, of an average of 5.2 more grams lost per day. An earlier human study of 32 obese adults that had been published in 2004 in the journal Obesity Research compared the effects of 24 weeks of just dieting, consuming 500 calories less per day than the amount of calories needed to maintain one's weight, to 24 weeks of dieting and eating a high calcium diet or taking supplemental calcium along with the healthy diet. Those randomized to the standard diet, which provided 400 to 500 milligrams of dietary calcium per day, lost 6.4% of their body weight from dieting. Those on the high calcium diet, 400 to 500 milligrams of calcium per day from food plus 800 milligrams of supplemental calcium per day, lost 8.6% of their body weight from by the end of the study. And those on the high dairy diet, 1,200 to 1,300 milligrams of calcium from foods, lost 10.9% of their body weight. Fat loss was similarly greatly increased by the high calcium and high dairy diets, by 38% more and 64% more respectively. Most importantly here for our health, the fat loss from the trunk region represented just 19% of the total fat loss on the low calcium diet, but it was increased to 50% of the fat lost on the high calcium diet and 66.2% of the fat lost on the high calcium plus high dairy diet. This is especially important because, as I discussed in another video in which our topic was the ways in which VAT, visceral abdominal tissue, or in normal language belly fat, causes a loss of bone mineral density and a drop in our ability to retain our muscle mass. Research has clearly shown us that abdominal fat, or trunk fat, is pro-inflammatory. It triggers chronic low-grade inflammation that activates osteoclasts and causes bone loss. So calcium's effects on belly fat are of major benefit for our bones. In yet another study of obese women who were low calcium consumers before the study began, which in this study meant they consumed less than 600 milligrams of calcium per day, supplementing with calcium and vitamin D over the course of the 15-week study substantially increased how much body weight, and specifically fat weight, these women lost compared to control subjects who did not take supplemental calcium and vitamin D. The women who did take supplemental calcium and vitamin D lost 4.4 kilograms, the equivalent of 9.68 pounds more than those who did not take supplemental calcium and vitamin D. And most of the extra weight that they lost was fat. The average drop in body fat mass in these women represented a loss of 32,000 calories. These spectacular results led the researchers to hypothesize that calcium and vitamin D supplementation improves our ability to burn fat, or fat oxidation, for energy. And this is an explanation that is now not only well accepted, but is referred to in the medical literature as the quote-unquote calcium paradox. And we'll talk about that in our next video. Thanks for tuning in.